Okay, thank you all for joining us today at Salesforce Developers. My name is Arabella David, and I'm a Director of Developer Marketing here at Salesforce. And I know a lot of you are still glowing from your experience at Trailhead DX that happened late last month. And hopefully you've all had a chance to enjoy a few days to relax and really absorb what you've experienced in your sessions, both in person and online. So we're going to start up our webinar series again with Kanan Garg, who's in the room with us today. And she's a product manager for Service Cloud. And she focuses on customer experiences. And she will be talking to you today on how to deliver the very best user experience for Service Cloud and focusing on how to embed support into your apps with Lightning Snap-ins. So as a quick reminder for those of us who are new to the webinar series here at Salesforce Developers, if you have any questions, feel free to pop them into the chat window of GoToWebinar and we'll capture them all. And we'll be spending about 10 minutes at the end of this webinar answering any questions or the most popular questions that have been popping up over the course of Kanan's presentation. And as a quick reminder, if you are seeing the screen frozen on your GoToWebinar, or if you are experiencing any audio issues, try rebooting GoToWebinar. It tends to take up a lot of resources on computers, so just try rebooting GoToWebinar or your computer and hop right back in. And just also as a reminder, this webinar is being recorded and should be available about a week after today. So with those kinds of housekeeping notes out of the way, I'm happy to again welcome Kanan to our webinar today, and she'll be talking more about embedding customer support into your apps with Lightning Snap-ins. So welcome.
Thank you, Arabella. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. Super excited to be here. I'm the product manager in Service Cloud, specifically focused on customer experience. And Snap-ins is one of those products that heavily actually focuses on customer experience. So super excited to be here to talk you through the product that we're developing and also give you a demo of what's available right now. This is the forward-looking slide. We do have a roadmap slide, which is, anything that you're making a purchasing decisions have to be based on what's available in the product today, not on what's in the roadmap. And, if you're a developer, you want to reach out to us, this is the best way. We have a LinkedIn account, we have YouTube. If you want to tweet this webinar, it's being recorded, but if you want to tweet it out to anyone, here's the handle for Twitter and then for Facebook as well. Cool, so this is the agenda. I kind of wanted to take, the three pillars really that we wanted to talk about is what is the state of customer experience today? Where does Snap-ins fall into that bucket? And then give you a good demo of where the product is. And then, we'll wrap it up with the roadmap, with next Q&A, and then next steps, how do you get started with the product? So that's really the three modules that I've divided the webinar into, and we'll go through them, spending at least 10 to 15 minutes on each section. Cool, so to get started, this is the state of the world today, right? We have technology that really has changed the expectations that customers have when they interact with the product or when they interact with the companies. With technology on the rise, we want connected support, we want personalized support, we want intelligent support, and there's kind of this expectation from your consumers that if I've bought a product from you, I expect you to know what my order was, I expect you to give me delivery or service in the next 10 to 15 minutes. That's where the world is at, that's where your consumers are at. And then to face the truth, support, unfortunately, is not at that level yet. Most of us have experienced this. You're in a web application or you're on a mobile app, and then you have a question. like it or not, you actually have to step out of the app, you have to call up a 1-800 number, and then you have to go through all of these questions, who am I speaking with? What did you buy from us? What were you looking at? And then that takes up an hour or two. You probably have it resolved, or they'll open a case, ask you to come back later, and then you come back into the web experience some 2 hours later, and it's time consuming, inconvenient, but that is the state of support today. It's almost a tax your consumers have to pay, to use your product. And so with that, where the technology is and where support is, we're trying to bridge that gap using Service Cloud Snap-ins. So the biggest foundation, or the foundation of the product, or the ideation of the product, was we want to keep or provide support where your consumers are, where your customers are. And your customers are in your web applications and they're in your mobile apps. You want to retain them. You want to help them solve their problems while they're in your application. You don't want them jumping out, coming back in. That's a disjointed or disconnected experience. So that's kind of the premise of the product. That's why we call it Snap In. You can snap it in to either your website or in your mobile application. On the slide, you'll see 3 tenets that we hold really kind of crucial and critical or core to the product. One is that it's connected. So we want to have in-app experiences for all of the Service Cloud channels. Today, Service Cloud exposes Knowledge, Live Agent, which is the live chat, Cases, and SOS, which is the two-way video conferencing, to its consumers. We want to bring it all together in one product and offer it as one offering to our customers. The second is provide intelligent support. So because of the way we are positioned on a customer's web page, we know where the user is, like what web page he's on, did he search for something on your website, did he, what's the content that he's reading. Based on that, we can pass that contextual data into Salesforce, and then, Salesforce will come back with, hey, how about serve this relevant knowledge article to the user? Hey, he's on the checkout page. How about we start a proactive chat? So we want to intelligently serve our customers when they're in your web page. And then obviously fast. It's pretty critical. Right now what we see is you're trying to set up a product, and then in Salesforce, and there's a bunch of checkboxes you have to enable, permissions, etc. We're trying to take that away from the admin. I mean, you do have to obviously enable some perms and prep, but we want to make a lot of the stuff declarative. We don't want you to be coding in Apex or any of that. We want you to, as an admin, give the power to the admin, make it declarative, so that you can reach to the customers as soon as possible. Here's the slide where we call it the 3 steps to customer success with Snap-ins. This is really the 3 steps you need to take before you have a customer win. The first one is configure. So configure is the ability to go into setup and declaratively set up your pre-chat form or your case quick action, stuff that you want to expose to the end user. The second one is branding. Now, branding is super critical because we are embedded on your customer's webpage, right? So we want to look one with their experience. We don't want it to look like a third-party Salesforce-y looking thing. We want it to be exactly like the customer's look and feel. So we provide tokens, branding APIs that you can use to brand the app to your experience. And then the third thing is really deploying. So taking a code snippet. So in case of a web page, it's going to be a code snippet, a JavaScript code snippet that you embed on the page. And I'll take you through the demo so you'll know about that. In case of a mobile platform, it's a service SDK. All the native apps use SDKs to build on top of, and you can use that. Drop it in the web page or mobile app, and you're ready to go in a matter of days, actually, instead of months. So that's really the 3 steps to customer success. Now, this slide is very important because I've heard a lot of questions about, okay, we get Snap-ins, but I don't know when to use mobile, when to use web, what's available on what. There's this little confusion around that, and that's why this slide is really helpful. So when you hear about Snap-ins, Snap-ins is a product, right? It's a product of how do you expose knowledge, live agent chat, cases, and we'll get into other like field service, book an appointment, et cetera, experiences into one product. But your customer, depending on what the customer is, some customers have just apps. Like if you're like Facebook. Facebook is more of an app, right? A native app. And then you're a web client or a web customer that they just have web pages. If you have a native app, you have to go with mobile Snap-ins. You have to go with the Service SDK. If you're a web page, you have to go with web Snap-ins, and that's the distinction between both. So today on mobile, we have mobile started about 8 to 9 months before the web did. They definitely have a few more channels available to them. So you have knowledge, you have case management, chat, and the two-way video conferencing available on mobile. On the web experience, you only have chat. We're heavily focused and investing into getting knowledge because that's been identified as the second channel we need to enable. So that's something that we'll be working on. But as of today, what's currently available, these are the channels that are currently available. And then how would you price? And this is another thing that we get asked a lot is what licenses do I need to buy? What's the pricing model? For mobile, it's an SDK. You have all these channels. Obviously, Snap-ins is free. You need to buy on the licenses on the agent side. So you need to buy, if you're exposing knowledge, you need to buy a knowledge license. If you're exposing chat, you need to buy the live agent chat license. For your agents, you don't need to buy anything on the web experience, on the customer experience. The only thing that's actually an add-on is SOS. It's $150 per user per license. So that is the only add-on because we integrate with third party. So this slide is helpful just to give you a feel of the licenses and pricing model. Cool. So that's kind of the first section, which is why is customer experience important? How is Snap-ins delivering that customer experience for an out-of-the-box customer experience for our customers? And now I wanted to actually walk you guys through a demo. I'm going to focus on web because that is one of the channels that we've come out with. So let's take, this is the website that your customer is on. This is, as you can see, it is not anything to do with Salesforce. It's called websnappins.com. It's a separate site hosted on GoDaddy. It's my own personal website. And what you have here on the bottom right is the Snap-ins widget, or we call it the code snippet that you have to drop on the page. And I'll show you how you can do that in just a minute. Behind the scenes, this is a Lightning Out application. Everything that you see on here is a Lightning component, and we follow all the Lightning practices. What you see on the console side, and some of you, if you're familiar with Service Cloud, this should be a familiar area for you. This is where your agents actually receive work and do their work. The only reason I'm showing Service Cloud in Classic and not in Lightning is because Live Agent today in Summer 17 is not yet in Lightning. And I wanted to show the chat experience. But if you're a Service Cloud customer, Service Cloud has gone to Lightning in Summer 17, so you should be using the Lightning console app. I'm online as a Live Agent, and I should be able to receive calls, chat requests from the. Okay, so go to is still on. All right. So what I'm going to do here is click on, so imagine I'm on this website, I'm browsing, I have a question, I see this little widget, I want to chat with an expert. When I hit this widget, I see that it opens up, it's loading. Sometimes this happens when my connection is not so great, but let me start this again. So I hit chat with an expert, it's going to load what's called as a Lightning Out application. A few things to note here are it's branded, so you can brand, give your pre-chat form a background image just to match your site. This color, don't worry about the red. I actually wanted to show that how I can declaratively set it up from, give the admins the power to change it at runtime. These form fields are declarative. You can specify them in your setup. Out of the box, we ship a case and a contact, so first name, last name, email, subject. And these labels are fully customizable. So I'm going to go ahead, enter some information, and start testing chat. So what happens next is you get placed in the agent queue. So as an agent, I'm sitting here, I'm accepting chat requests. We pass in all the first name, last name, all the pre-chat information. What we also do is pass in the most recently viewed pages. This is super important to an agent because he wants to know where the requests are coming from. We send up to the last 25 pages viewed by the user. So the agent knows, okay, this was the trail that the customer took before they started chat with us. I'm going to go ahead and accept the chat request. What you see next is, if you're a live agent customer, you should be kind of familiar with this. Hi, user. How are you doing? On the website, you'll see that notifications are passed, and this is the experience that we land them in. On the web page, it's a chat application now, so I can say, hi, agent, I need help buying jackets. And then this upper bar that we have here, don't mind the red, I was actually playing around with this a little bit. But here's where we want to actually expand this and have a lot of other functionality embedded. So right now we just have Save Transcript and End Chat. The Save Transcript allows your end user to download the transcript anytime they're chatting with an agent. And you can close it, expand it. We want to embed, like going forward with knowledge, we want to use this space to show what were the relevant knowledge articles useful to you. How about if you want to log a case, there are other settings that we need. So I'm going to start, if I were an agent, I'm going to just send out some test messages right here, and you'll see that they come in over here. The next thing that's really cool about this is, imagine you minimize this and then say I go to jackets and I'm interested in this jacket. You'll see that the chat actually got carried forward and the chat is persisted as you navigate throughout the site. Now, this is really crucial because what we've seen with Live Agent today is that because it's a pop-out, users kind of forget that they're talking to an agent, and as they navigate through the site, the chat remains out of context. With this, we've preserved the context and we've preserved the chat as they've moved in. As you can see, we also use the top space for system messages like, hey, your chat's about to expire. Hi, agent, I'm in the chat, so we also use the space for that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and end the chat session. I hit end chat, and what happens is you get a give feedback button. If you are a customer, and most customers want to have some sort of survey, I've just linked it to surveymonkey.com. This could be any web page that you want to show as a post-chat experience, like a thank you page or a next steps page or a rating widget, anything that you wanted, you could put on that page. This is the runtime feel of what we have so far with chat. So the chat's ended over here. On the Live Agent side, some of you may be familiar. If you want to set up Live Agent, you hit Live Agent. You need to go ahead and create a chat button. This is the chat button that I've created that's available for choice routing and the skills of some service skills. Cool. So with that, I wanted to go into how would you set up Snap-ins? What's our Snap-ins deployment? And the setup process is very simple. I'm going to show you what we've done so far on that page and then create a new deployment for you to see just how simple it is to implement Snap-ins. So this is the deployment that I do have. You need to first select the Live Agent button and deployment that you're going to serve. Since I just had one chat button, I'm going to select that. This could be any number of chat buttons that you want to embed. Today you have to create one deployment per chat button, but you could have any number of chat buttons in your org and you can configure which Snap-ins uses which chat button. The next thing really cool is branding. So the nav bar that you saw that was red in color, I actually want it to be this color instead. And you can see that we've got, okay, that is not what I wanted to happen. I'm going to go ahead, hit edit, change it with this color, and hit, so the nav bar becomes that color. I, as an admin, have the control now. I can hit finish. Imagine even in your pre-chat form, you weren't super happy with the 4 form fields that we gave you. Maybe case subject is not something you want. I'm going to go ahead and instead choose like case reason, and the pick list is something I can define in my org. I'll hit save. What happens next is when I go here and I refresh the page, immediately you'll see that the navbar color changed to the one that you had supplied, and then the case reason has changed, case subject has changed to case reason. This is super, super powerful because this has given the power to the admins now. This has put the power back into the support agents, support side. You don't now need to go back to your web team and say, hey, we need to change this color and this pre-chat form, and they'll probably, you know, there's going to be this back and forth. You can now, as an admin, change it from the setup and it reflects back on the site. You don't need to redeploy the code. The next cool thing to show is, imagine these labels. Now, every customer wants to customize these labels to whatever they want. You can now do that with Snap-ins using rename tabs and labels. If you are familiar with Salesforce platform, this is where, and this is generic to all of Salesforce platform, this is how you customize labels in Salesforce. What we've done is we've added a Snap-ins node to rename tabs and labels. You hit next. All of these labels are now, that you saw over here, are actually customizable via this UI. So I can go ahead and say start chatting. I had it set to get cracking. I'm going to say start chat now with an exclamation. Hit save. And then when you go back to the website, refresh, you get start chat now. This again, declarative, super fast. You don't need to redeploy. You can change any and all of the labels that's shown at runtime using this UI. For some of our EMEA customers, or any for a major national brand that has their web pages translated in multiple languages, you can go ahead, create German translation of the labels. You can see everything's been turned to German. I have my Snap-ins node. Hit next. All of these labels out of the box have been turned to German. Now you can go ahead and say this is, you don't like this label, you want to translate it, you can do that over here. So I'm going to leave that exercise for you guys, but it's possible. We've leveraged platform and given that capability to you. So real quick, if you had to do this in a matter of minutes, this is how you can do that on a Visualforce page. I would create a new deployment. I would give it a name, say, developer webinar. API name, the site's endpoint, because we need a site that is enabled, a force.com site, because we are in guest user mode. For guest users to access anything in Salesforce, you need to have a guest force.com site endpoint. Going to hit create. The first thing you need to do is select your live agent deployment and chat button. I only have one, so I'm going to save that. I'm going to keep the branding as it is. Now get code. This is the code snippet that we provide to our customers to embed in their web pages. Some of the key things to note about the code snippet, language. So now imagine like you wanted to show your labels in German. By default, we ship English. You would come here and set it to DE, like German, or FR for French, and the entire labels will be translated to French. So we've made it very declarative for admins, again, to just do something, provide a parameter on the code snippet, and you're ready to go. Some of the things on the runtime when you saw with pre-chat background image URL, or with the agent avatars, you can specify these URLs over here, and we pick it up in the code snippet. What I'm going to do is copy this code snippet, hit done. Go to Visualforce page because I just wanted to show you. This is a Visualforce page, nothing in here. I'm going to edit the Visualforce page, drop in the code snippet that I just picked up from there, and hit save. Once it's been saved, I'm going to go to version settings and then preview the page. Once you hit preview, you will see right at the bottom right, out of the box, you didn't have to do anything, and there you go. You're able to now start chatting with your agent. And this is what I meant by you don't have to worry about configuring any REST endpoints. You don't have to do anything. We've configured it. All you need to do is drop it into a web page, come back here, accept it, and you're good to go. So this is the kind of the direction we're taking with the product. Super declarative, super fast. We want to manage all the REST endpoints, all the integration with Service Cloud on our end. You should really, as a customer, be working on the business use case, on the branding, not so much on how do I figure this REST endpoint. So that's where we are today with the product. I'm going to go ahead and close this. Cool. So with that, I'm going to jump back into the presentation. Here's where we were. Just to recap, we went through how do you create a Snap-in's deployment, how do you get the code and embed it on a GitHub page or a Visualforce page. Branding, how would you change the navbar colors, add custom labels, translations. Pre-chat form, you can change the fields. If you're really curious about passing in extra information, not just from the setup, we have a knowledge article on how to do that behind the scenes as well. And then communities. This is another way we've really taken this to communities now as a second way. So one way to do, let me go here and let me go to all communities. What I have here is all of my communities. I have a very bare bones community, and I'll show you how we've, if you're a community customer, and you really want to chat with your customers in the community, today you can do that in a Snap using Snap-ins. It's a component that we've made. So if you're familiar with communities, you can drag and drop components. What you'll see here under support is a Snap-ins chat component that you can drag to any page, or if you want only one chat throughout your throughout your community, you would drop it into the footer. And that's just generally how communities work. If you want some functionality that's carried across all pages, you would drop it into the footer. I've already configured it. I've also configured the labels to say chat now. If I were to preview this, open it, you would see that the chat is chats on your community on chat now. And I have disabled the pre-chat form, which is why it's going directly into the chat request. But the same experience as a component, super easy. Traditionally, this would have been a live agent, like you would have to have a managed package. We've made it very convenient with just a Lightning component. All right, so that's the demo. Showed you how to drag and drop it as a component of the community. Cool. So that is the wrap of the second module. So we've gone over so far what is the customer experience, where Snap-ins is really making a difference over there. The second thing is how would you actually embed this in a web page, and the third one is our roadmap, what we're thinking of the product a year from now. So we have, like I mentioned, web started off a little, a year almost after mobile. Snap-ins, knowledge is really critical to us, and so we're doing a knowledge POC right now in this release. It won't be available to any customer, and it's very guarded by a firm. But in Spring 18, we want to take knowledge beta. We need to do on the setup side a multi-product setup because we've got knowledge, we've got live agent. based on what your portfolio is in Service Cloud, you may just want to enable knowledge, not chat, maybe only chat. So we need to work on our setup a little bit. Chatbot integration, this is really cool. Chatbots is coming to Service Cloud, and although it's being, it is a different team, but they're integrating into Snap-ins into 12, which is Spring 18. And then book an appointment. So if you're a field service customer and you want to book an appointment, we're providing that capability as well with Snap-ins. Imagine you're a Comcast or any of these big Home Depots. You want to schedule an appointment. You can go to their, you could drop in our Snap-ins on your website. You could schedule an appointment. And then mobile right now is focusing very heavily on Einstein, and because they have all the channels, a lot of their focus is on performance, encryption, security, addressing a lot of customer feedback. So they're doing a lot of, customer support and feedback right now. And then Summer 18 is we want to get cases in as well, where we want to have all the big 3 channels, Service Cloud channels in web, to chat, cases, and knowledge. And of course, we'll address customer feedback as we get them. Cool. Now is the time for Q&A. We're kind of past the half hour. If you wanted to, and these are some next steps, which I can, we can go through the Q&A, and then I can leave the next steps for where you should go after this.
Yeah. So thank you for going through that. Looks like we have quite a few questions here.
Yeah.
So considering that we have a few minutes left, I think we can go through most of them.
Yeah.
So there have been a few questions along the same lines, and it has to do with Classic and Lightning.
Okay.
So one of the questions, for example, that we've had is, can you use Snap-ins in Classic?
Yes. So this whole experience, the setup experience that I was talking about, as you can see here, you don't need to move your org to Lightning just to get Snap-ins. All you need to do is enable, because Lightning is the way to go, and our product is new. We are going to develop our setup in Lightning. All you need to do is enable Lightning in your org. So you don't need to migrate your org. If you go to any org today, it comes with this on the top right, Lightning Experience Migration Assistant, get started, turn it on. All you need to do is enable Lightning. You don't need to migrate. Once you've enabled Lightning, you have your org enabled, and then you can do Snap-ins. You can set it up, but our setup will be in Lightning, not on Classic. And that's the direction.
Okay, great. So that actually answers another question here. Do we have to have Lightning enabled in order to use Snap-ins?
Yeah, enabled, yes, not migrated to.
Okay, so again, on the topic of Lightning, there was just kind of an overall question regarding some of the terminology that was used. So what is a Lightning Out app? Can you share some information there?
Yes, so Lightning Out is an application that allows you to build components on a third-party website. So it's a little different than just Lightning. Lightning is a whole framework, but Lightning Out is a JavaScript library that you can download, and you can build Lightning components using that Lightning Out application. So that's what we use. And I can forward, there's documentation on Lightning Out app, but I can forward that as well if needed. Yeah.
Would it contain information to answer this question here, which is, so can you put a Lightning Out app into a completely
Yes.
Okay.
So if you see this is websnappins.com, nothing to do with Salesforce. And if I but if I were to, I accidentally closed that page, but if I were to view, where do I go into view page source? View page source, what's going on? Okay, these page sources are not viewable. But if I were to inspect, this is a code snippet that I've dropped into this web page. It is not, it's not an SFDC page at all. So yes, Lightning Out is usable on a third-party non-SFDC web page.
Okay, great. Thank you for answering that question. So you did cover roadmap for the last segment of this conversation. So we do have a roadmap related question. So you did cover quite a lot of declarative
Yes.
activities with some code snippets.
Yes.
But one of the questions we have here is, what's the roadmap like for providing more programmatic support for customization of the customer side UI? So, for example, allowing the floating button to be at different sides of the screen,
Yep.
or using an entirely different UI element for starting the chat.
Yep. So this that we have right now, and this is the mobile experience, so that we have right now is not something you guys need to do on your end. So you don't need, it doesn't need to look like this. It could be anything. So this, at this point, Lightning Out is not loaded. You can customize this to whatever you want. Some customers, have the ones that we have just have it as a question mark and a little bubble on the side. Some have it as a link. So you can actually have a link over here that says contact us, and have this launch from that link. It doesn't need to be, this is the default that we provide. It doesn't need to be this. You can launch it from anywhere. But the experience, the chat does sit in the bottom right. So you can launch it from anywhere, but it would come to the bottom right.
Okay, great. Yeah, there were a few questions about where they could position the different chats, so I think you've answered that as well.
Yeah.
Okay, another roadmap question. You did mention knowledge. So the question here is, does Snap-in Knowledge, is this available for iOS now?
Yes, iOS and Android, it is totally available. You should go check out, download this SDK, which is actually part of my next steps. But if you're a mobile customer, go download this demo app. You have Knowledge. In this demo app, you'll have Knowledge embedded. So.
Okay, great. I know that a couple of these questions were asked before you dipped into the demo, so I think you've probably answered them already, but just for coverage, one of the questions we've had, a few of the questions that we have regarding passing parameters back and forth. So the full question that I'll use as an example here is, as an SaaS company, I'm interested in understanding if this can be embedded directly into our own application. How extensible are snap-ins to allow us to pass along parameters from our internal app, such as internal application state or error messages?
So if it's in the pre-chat form, it is totally possible. And what we've done is we've got, let's say, I have a knowledge article that talks about how you can programmatically pass in this extra parameter. It's a JSON object that you can use behind the scenes. Just like on the code snippet, you see these extra parameters over here. What you will see is embedded service.settings dot extra pre-chat info, extra pre-chat detail. Just like in Live Agent, you do that, you will be able to pass in extra parameters. So totally possible. And the first part of the question, can it be embedded directly into our application? Actually, Snap-ins is made for that use case. It is meant to be embedded in your application, which is your website or your mobile app.
Okay,
it's
great.
Not Salesforce. Yeah.
Great. So it's super flexible.
Yes.
So speaking of flexibility and pre-chat forms, I think you've actually already answered this, but just to get a clear answer, can we use custom fields?
Yes. So you can use this on this pre-chat page. By default, we start with a contact and case, right? So now case, this is a record detail layout of the case. If I only have master, if you had a different layout or different record type for a case, you could actually use that in your org. And then if you had custom fields on that, you can hit next. You can actually pick custom fields from that layout, from that record type, and add them to this. So as you can see over here, there is something called as an EMEA cab location, which is a custom field, not something you get on the case object. So yes, totally possible.
Great. Yeah. So we do have a terminology question here, especially regarding other products. So can you clarify the difference between omni-channel and Snap-ins?
Perfect. So omni-channel is on the agent side, is inside your Service Cloud. So, or inside your Service Cloud. So what happens is today agents should be able to take blended calls. They should be able to take cases, chats. You can create queues and attach agents to them. And each agent can be a chat agent and also solve cases when he's not solving chats, right? So that's what omni-channel does. It helps you direct work into a queue that has agents that can pick up that work item. So that's omni-channel, that's in your org, that's inside Salesforce. And you can, an omni-channel being, you can route any kind of work, not just service work, you can route any kind of work through those channels to your agent. That's inside Salesforce. Snap-ins is a customer experience on the customer side, on the consumer side. So Snap-ins is taking all of like the live agent end experience, the knowledge, all of that API and embedding, making a product out of it and embedding it on your web page. So as a customer, I have a Salesforce org and I have my website, right? Like this is my brand to consumers. I would embed Snap-ins here and I would enable Omni inside my Salesforce org to get the work items. So that's the difference.
Okay, so it seems like the flow of, let's say you were planning a flow of someone going to chat and then routing to the correct omni-channel queue.
Yes.
Based on information in the pre-chat. So can they have this kind of scenario?
Totally, yes. So I would, if I had to set up Snap-ins with omni-channel, I would go into my Salesforce, set up omni-channel, set up my queues, add agents to those queues, assign agents to the queues, say which work item gets routed to which queue, and then take the code snippet, put it on the website, and then use pre-chat form to kind of direct where the work goes.
Okay, lovely, thank you. So all of this has been in English so far, but we have had a few questions from our audience regarding internationalization. So for example, if the website that you've been showing has several different languages, how does Snap-ins work with this?
Yes, so this is an English website. What you've seen here is the code. Maybe if I go to another, let's say jackets, this one, and I do view paid source. And okay, so you were asking, one of you had asked, like, can I embed this on an external website? As you can see, when I inspected this, this is the code snippet that I got from my deployment, and I've embedded it actually onto a customer's website. Now, what you'll see here is this language parameter. Ideally, what you need to do is write custom logic. If this web page is in German, what you would do is add some JavaScript on this page and say, if the web page is in German, make this language DE. And then everything in Snap-ins, like this component, all of these labels will be translated to German. So you need to, we've exposed an API, you need to write the custom logic based on, maybe it's a user profile. On the user's profile, he set his preference to be German. You take that and then you use this API to drive internationalization.
Okay.
So yes, and then for custom labels, like I showed, you can go to rename tabs and labels and then customize your labels from there.
Lovely. So I think for a lot of, thank you for that. I think for a lot of these other questions, they can be answered in the next steps that you're going to be sharing. I do have a few very specific questions in regards to Stack Exchange, and it might be a bit involved to go through it in this webinar, but can you describe how your team or people can find answers if they do have specific questions regarding Snap-ins that are in Stack Exchange?
In Stack Exchange, I would suggest, so we have success communities. We have a success community for Snap-ins. I would imagine, I mean, I kind of like the idea of using success communities over Stack Exchange because that is, you know, not just me, but my team is also on there and they respond mostly to yes. So we use those. I would go to success community for Snap-ins. There is, if you're a partner, we have partner communities for Snap-ins. If you're internal, we have Org62. So yes, that's one way.
Okay, so I think just so we're not sending people all over the place after this webinar, I'll send you the links.
Okay.
And then ideally, so that our attendees don't have to go to several different sites to ask the same question, if you could point it towards the right people on your team, I think it'd be super productive. Thank you for that. So I think for a lot of these, we've answered most of them. There's a couple of questions here regarding Winter 17, specifically regarding labels. So is there anything regarding that on the roadmap you were able to share in this webinar?
So labels, like I mentioned, you can customize them using rename tabs and labels. Maybe I should just show that again. Here is where Snap-ins is. Everything is customizable. We've leveraged the platform as much as possible. And you should be able to see them, that they're not only translated, but customizable over here. So if that's your question, then yes, it's available today. You don't have to wait.
Okay, lovely. Thank you for that. And I think on that note, let's go into those resources that you were mentioning earlier.
Okay, so I would say for next steps, we have a developer guide. Here's where all of our documentation is. Chatter group, this is the success community. And then like I said, I would really just play with Snap-ins in a Visualforce page. Ideally, you should be able, I use a GitHub page. If you have a GitHub account, create an HTML page on GitHub, drag and drop the code snippet into a GitHub page. You'll see how, for some of you who feel it's only Salesforce, no, it's not. You can attach it to a GitHub page. And then deploy Snap-ins in communities. That's really like getting you guys up and started with the product. For mobile, definitely, if your customer is, or if you're interested in mobile development, download the demo app on your mobile phone. Here's the link to it. I'll show you how knowledge and cases have been embedded, and you can take it from there. There's also a Trailhead module for mobile, just because mobile is a little bit, you need to be an iOS or Android developer. I mean, for web Snap-ins, you need to be a JavaScript developer. But take this Trailhead. It really, in easy steps, goes through how you can create a mobile app using our SDK, or embed support in your mobile app.
Okay, great.
And then, you can get a badge once you do our Service Cloud Snap-ins.
Great. Lovely. Thank you so much for this. So I think what I like about this is we provided a lot of great resources for our Salesforce developers to get started, and also kind of build good things for their admins and users to start using. So it'd be super efficient. The Trailhead badge is, of course, very accessible to everybody. But if you do have more specific questions, as Canon mentioned, in addition to the Salesforce Stack Exchange, we also have the Success Community and the Chatter group. And so I wanted to thank you again. And if you do have questions specifically for Canon that can't be answered in the Success Community or through other ways, just ping Canon on Twitter, and her handle is Canon0003. So once again, thank you all for joining us today, and talk to you all again soon. Thanks.